I'm Barbara Hayes. I'm 68 years old and I've learned that the people who eat at your table are the first ones to choke you when you're not looking. I gave them a debt-free life, a paid-off mortgage, and a $500,000 education. But they handed me a locked door and a trash bag full of my memories. They looked at me and saw a senile old woman stitching quilts in a dusty craft room, ready for the nursing home. They didn't know that the craft room is actually the global headquarters of Hayes Enterprises, and I own the very bank they're trying to rob. By tomorrow morning, they won't just be divorced. They'll be tenants in a federal prison, and I'll be the one holding the keys. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. My story begins 3 days before the end of my family inside the sterile white-walled prison of the Harbor Medical Center in Seattle. I was sitting on the edge of an examination table that cost more than my first car. The paper covering crinkled loudly every time I shifted my weight. The air smelled of rubbing alcohol and fake lavender, a scent designed to mask the smell of sickness and money. This wasn't just a doctor's office. It was a holding cell for the wealthy and elderly, a place where rich children parked their aging parents to assuage their guilt. Just relax, Mrs. Hayes, the nurse said. She was young, efficient, and barely looked at me. She was attaching cold, sticky electrodes to my chest. The doctor will be in shortly to review your stress test. I didn't want to relax. I wanted to go home. My son Daniel had insisted on this trip. Mom, you've been looking so tired lately, he had said, his voice dripping with a concern that felt slightly rehearsed. Michelle and I just want to make sure you're okay. We booked the executive package, 3 days of rest and tests. Michelle, my daughter-in-law, a woman with a smile that showed too many teeth and a handshake that always felt like she was trying to sell me insurance. She had driven me here herself. It was a 4-hour drive from my home in the suburbs, and she had spent the entire time talking about investment opportunities in cryptocurrency and decentralized finance. I had nodded and played the part I had perfected over the last decade, the part of Barbara, the retired seamstress, the simple widow who lived on a pension and didn't understand digital wallets. You deserve the best, Barbara, Michelle had said as she dropped me off at the lobby, patting my shoulder with a condescension that made my teeth ache. We'll handle everything at the house. Don't you worry about a thing. I looked down at the electrodes on my chest. I felt like a specimen. My phone buzzed on the metal tray next to the biomonitor. It was my family phone, a battered iPhone 8 with a cracked screen. I kept it specifically for them. It was part of the disguise. I reached for it, expecting a text from Daniel, asking if I liked the vegan lunch menu. It wasn't a text. It was an email notification from the bank. That was odd. My pension account was set to autopay bills. I never got alerts unless something major happened. I swiped the screen, squinting at the small text. Subject, wire transfer confirmation. My stomach dropped. It felt like the elevator cable had just snapped. I opened the email. Dear Mrs. Hayes, this message is to confirm a deposit of $320,000 into your savings account from Maple Grove Escrow Services. $320,000. Maple Grove. That was the address of my rental property. The small 3-bedroom house I had bought 40 years ago as my first investment. The house I had promised never to sell because it was the first place I lived with my late husband, Robert. My heart gave a violent kick against my ribs. The biomonitor beside me started to beep frantically. Mrs. Hayes, the nurse said, spinning around from the counter. Ma'am, your heart rate just spiked. You need to lie down. I ignored her. I was staring at the screen, my fingers trembling. They sold it. They sold the Maple Grove house. But that was impossible. The deed was in my name. It required my signature, notarized, and witnessed. I was 4 hours away in a hospital gown. I ripped the sticky pads off my chest. The machine shrieked a continuous high-pitched warning. Ma'am, the nurse shouted, rushing toward me. What are you doing? You can't take those off. I have to make a call, I said, my voice sounding ragged and strange to my own ears. I dialed Daniel. He answered on the second ring. Mom, how's the spa? I mean, the clinic. He sounded breathless. Happy. Too happy. Daniel, I said, cutting through his cheer. Why did I just get a wire transfer notification? Silence. Dead, heavy silence on the other end of the line. I could hear him breathing. I could hear a muffled voice in the background. It sounded like Michelle O.P. said suddenly, his voice pitching up an octave. You saw that? Surprise. Surprise. I repeated, gripping the phone so hard the plastic case creaked. We sold the rental house, he squealed. The old place on Maple Grove. Michelle found a buyer who wanted a quick cash deal. Isn't that amazing? I sat on the edge of the table, my legs dangling. The room was spinning. You sold my house, Daniel. That house is not yours to sell. I am the owner. I didn't sign anything. Don't be silly, Mom, he said, rushing his words. You signed the power of attorney forms before you left. Remember, for the medical stuff, Michelle just used that to help you. Help me. I called grand larceny help. Michelle handled all the paperwork, he continued, gaining speed. The old place was just rotting. Mom, it was a burden. We paid off Michelle's debts, and we put a huge chunk right into your account. We're taking care of you. How much? I asked. How much did you sell it for? $320, he announced proudly. Cash. My blood ran cold. The Maple Grove property was appraised at $850,000 last month. They had sold it for pennies on the dollar. They had liquidated my asset in a fire sale to get quick cash. Daniel, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. You have made a terrible mistake. What, Mom? You're not making sense? We did this for you. We're fixing up your main house, too. We have a big surprise waiting for you when you get back. Fixing up the main house, my sanctuary, the place where Robert's paintings hung. I'm coming home, I said. No, he shouted. No, you have to stay for 3 days. The doctor said. I hung up. The nurse was staring at me, eyes wide. Ma'am, I'm calling the doctor. You are in no condition to leave. I'm leaving, I said, sliding off the table. I walked to the locker where my clothes were. My hands were shaking, not from age, but from a rage so pure it felt like liquid fire in my veins. I dressed in my worn cardigan and my comfortable slacks. I looked like exactly what they thought I was, a tired old woman. I reached into the inner pocket of my heavy coat and pulled out my other phone. It was a satellite-encrypted device that cost more than Daniel's car. I dialed a number saved as Patricia. Patricia wasn't just my lawyer. She was the chief operating officer of Hayes Enterprises. She answered instantly. Mrs. Hayes, I trust the stress test is going well. It's over, I said. Patricia, initiate the red protocol. There was a pause. The playfulness vanished from Patricia's voice. Ma'am, is there a security threat? My daughter-in-law just forged my signature to sell the Maple Grove asset, I said. She sold an $800,000 property for $320,000 in cash. I need you to freeze everything. I need the name of the buyer. I need the notary records. And I need a car waiting for me at the clinic entrance in 5 minutes. I'm on it, Patricia said. The sound of typing already audible in the background. And the funds they wired $320,000 to my personal savings, I said. But that leaves over $500,000 unaccounted for based on the market value. Find out who bought it. Understood. Ma'am, are you safe? I'm fine, I said, opening the door to the hallway. But Michelle is about to have a very bad day. The drive back took 3 hours in the back of a black sedan provided by my security team. I didn't speak to the driver. I stared out the window at the gray highway, watching the miles blur. I thought about Robert. We had built this life together. We had built the empire of Hayes Enterprises from a single duplex in the bad part of town. But Robert hated the flash. He hated the suits, the galas, the envy in people's eyes. Let's just be us, Bafra, he had said. Let Daniel grow up normal. Money turns people into monsters. So, we hid it. We created a fortress of simplicity. I retired from the public face of the company. I let everyone believe I was just a seamstress who got lucky with a few stocks. I drove a 10-year-old sedan. I wore clothes from department stores. I did it to honor him. And now that simplicity had been weaponized against me. Michelle had looked at my simple life and seen weakness. She saw a helpless old woman who wouldn't notice if her pockets were picked. My encrypted phone buzzed. It was, Patricia, ma'am, I have preliminary intel. Go ahead. The buyer of the Maple Grove property is a shell company called Luna LLC. It was registered 3 days ago in Delaware. The signatory is buried, but the notary who witnessed the sale is a woman named Lisa Crawford. Crawford has been working out of a strip mall office. Crawford, I repeated. I don't know her. You wouldn't. She's a bottom feeder. Lost her license 2 years ago for fraud. She's working night shifts at a diner now. Apparently, Michelle promised her a $10,000 cut for falsifying the documents. Let me guess, I said. Michelle didn't pay her. Michelle never pays anyone. Patricia said. Crawford is angry, and an angry accomplice is the best kind of witness. So, the sale is fraudulent on multiple levels, I said. Correct, but here's the kicker, ma'am. We traced the money flow. The buyer wired $850,000 to the escrow account, but only $320,000 hit your account. Where's the rest? It was diverted, Patricia said, to a crypto exchange wallet. It's gone dark. Crypto? I spat the word out. Michelle's obsession. She's stealing the difference, I said. She sold it at market value, told Daniel it was a fire sale, gave me the scraps, and pocketed $500,000. It appears so. And ma'am, there's something else. What? Your security system at the main residence on Elmwood Drive, it's been disabled. Offline, since yesterday morning. I can't get a visual feed. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. I'm 10 minutes away, I said. Meet me there. The car pulled up to the curb of my home on Elmwood Drive. It was a beautiful house. A classic Victorian that Robert and I had restored with our own hands 40 years ago. The hydrangeas he planted lined the walkway, but as I stepped out of the car, the first thing I saw was the pile. It was a mound of debris on the front lawn, wet from the morning rain. I walked toward it, my boots crunching on the gravel. I stopped. It wasn't debris, it was my life. There was the oak rocking chair where I had rocked Daniel to sleep. There were the leather-bound encyclopedias Robert used to read. There were boxes of my clothes, my sewing supplies, my books, and on top, face up, soaking in the drizzle, was a painting. It was a watercolor of the lake. Robert had painted it 3 months before he died. His signature in the corner was blurred by the water. A piece of cardboard was taped to the rocking chair. In thick black marker, someone had scrawled, "Free." I stood there, the rain dampening my shoulders. I didn't feel the cold. I felt a heat so intense it threatened to burn through my skin. I walked up the porch steps. I reached for my keys. I slid the brass key into the lock. It didn't turn. I jiggled it. Nothing. I looked closely. The lock was new, shiny, cheap silver metal that clashed with the antique door. They had locked me out. They had evicted me from my own home. I didn't knock. I didn't ring the doorbell. I stepped back and kicked the door. I'm 68, but I do yoga and Pilates every morning in a studio hidden behind a false wall in my basement. I'm stronger than I look. The wood splintered. The cheap new lock gave way with a loud crack. The door swung open, banging against the interior wall. What the hell? A voice screamed from inside. I stepped into the foyer and I stopped dead. My home was gone. The warm oak wainscoting was painted a flat, soulless gray. The antique rug, a gift from a diplomat during a deal in the 90s, which I told everyone was a flea market find, was gone. In its place was a white shag carpet that looked like synthetic moss. The smell was overpowering, fresh paint and cheap adhesive. Who is that? Michelle came around the corner from the living room. She stopped when she saw me. She was holding a glass of champagne, and she was wearing Robert's cashmere throw, the soft cream-colored blanket he used to wrap himself in when he watched movies. She had it draped over her shoulders like a cape, like a queen. Barbara, she stammered. Her face went pale. You're supposed to be in Seattle. And you, I said, my voice low and steady, are supposed to be wearing your own clothes. Daniel ran in behind her. He was wearing a designer tracksuit I had never seen before. Mom, he shrieked. Oh my God, what happened to the door? Take it off, I said to Michelle. Michelle asked, clutching the blanket. The blanket, I said, stepping closer. Take my husband's blanket off your shoulders right now. Michelle recovered some of her composure. She smirked, that arrogant, entitled smirk that always made me want to fire her. If only she actually worked for me. Calm down, Barbara. It's just a blanket. We were celebrating. Celebrating what? I asked. The theft of my property. We didn't steal anything, Daniel cried, putting himself between us. We improved things. Look at the walls. It's so modern. We wanted to surprise you. You threw your father's paintings in the mud, I said, pointing to the open door. You put a free sign on his memories. That was old junk, Mom, Daniel said, tears welling in his eyes. It was depressing. We wanted a fresh start for you. We used the money from the rental house to pay for all this. The rental house you stole, I said. We helped you, Michelle shouted, stepping forward. She was trying to be the alpha female in the room. You were letting that asset rot. I liquidated it. I made a smart business move. And yeah, we spent some of it on this place. It's our inheritance anyway, isn't it? We just advanced the timeline. Your inheritance, I repeated. Yeah, Michelle said, puffed up. Daniel is your only heir. It's all going to be ours, eventually. We're just managing it better than you ever could. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was a woman of 38 who had never accomplished a single thing on her own. She bounced from startup to startup, funding her failures with Daniel's salary and my loans. You think this is yours? I asked softly. It is, Michelle said. And frankly, Barbara, you barging in here like a maniac, maybe the doctors were right. Maybe you do need full-time care. She took a sip of her champagne. In fact, since we have power of attorney, maybe we should call them back. Have you escorted to a facility where you can't break doors? She was threatening to institutionalize me in my own house. I laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. It was a dry, rattling sound. Michelle, I said, come with me. What? Where? To the craft room, I said. The sewing room. You always made fun of my sewing room. Come see it. I'm not going to your dusty craft room, Michelle sneered. I moved faster than she expected. I grabbed her by the collar of her shirt, punching the cashmere blanket in my fist. I shoved her toward the hallway. Hey, get off me, she screamed. Daniel screamed too. Mom, stop. I didn't stop. I dragged her through the kitchen, past the new stainless steel refrigerator they had probably bought with my money. I kicked open the door to the craft room. It was dark inside, smelled of fabric and lavender, just like a sewing room should. I threw Michelle into the center of the room. She stumbled, dropping her champagne glass. It shattered on the hardwood. You're crazy, she yelled. I'm calling the police. Do it, I said. I walked to the cutting table. There was a half-finished quilt on it, a prop. I reached under the table and pressed a hidden panel. A biometric scanner slid out. I pressed my thumb against it. A green light flashed. Voice authorization required. A computerized voice said. Michelle stopped shouting. She stared at the wall. Authorization, Barbara Hayes, code Omega Red, I said clearly. The back wall of the craft room, the wall covered in fabric rolls and hanging scissors, hissed. It split down the middle. The fabric rolls retracted. The wall slid open to reveal a room of glass and steel. Inside, rows of servers, hummed with blue lights. A bank of 6 monitors on a floating desk displayed global market trends, live news feeds, and security camera footage from 12 different properties. Michelle's jaw dropped. Daniel gasped from the doorway. What is this? Michelle whispered. This, I said, walking into the command center, is Hayes Enterprises. I sat in the leather executive chair. I tapped a key. The screens flared to life. One screen showed the bank records for Maple Grove Escrow. Another showed Michelle's personal email, which my security team had cracked 10 minutes ago. You thought I was a seamstress, I said, swiveling to face them. I am the majority shareholder of the bank you use. I own the construction firm that built this subdivision, and I have spent the last 40 years pretending to be poor so that my son wouldn't marry a gold-digging parasite. I looked at Daniel. I failed. I said. Michelle was staring at the monitors. Her face was a mask of shock, but then I saw the shift. The shock was replaced by greed. She wasn't scared yet. She was calculating. You're rich, she whispered. Filthy rich. You lied to us, Daniel said, his voice trembling. All these years we clipped coupons, we drove used cars, and you were sitting on this. I was protecting you, I said. From her. Protecting him. Michelle laughed. It was a manic sound. You were hoarding it. You selfish old bitch. I'm the bitch. I asked. You forged my signature. You committed wire fraud. That's a federal crime, Michelle. So what? Michelle shot back. She walked into the room, looking around with hungry eyes. You going to send your daughter-in-law to jail? Daniel won't let you. Try me, I said. I already did, Michelle said. She pulled out her phone. You think you're smart, Barbara. You think tracking the money makes you a genius. She held up the phone. It showed a digital wallet app. I knew you might find out about the Maple Grove sale eventually. I'm not stupid. I didn't leave that money in a bank account you could freeze. You moved it to crypto. I said calmly. Monero unexactly. Michelle grinned. Untraceable. And here's the best part. The private key, the password to access that $500,000, it's in my head. Nowhere else. She tapped her temple. If you arrest me, if you call the cops, I forget the password. The money burns. Poof. Gone forever. This was the false lead. She was bluffing about the security, but the threat was real enough to pause the game. $500,000 was a lot of money, even for me. More importantly, it was the principle. You're holding my money hostage, I said. I'm negotiating, Michelle said. Here's the deal. You admit we're partners. You cut us in on all this. She gestured to the servers. You give us a seat at the table, or the money vanishes. And I tell the IRS about all your secret offshore servers. I bet you haven't declared all this income, have you? A secret billionaire seamstress. Sounds like tax evasion to me. She thought she had me. She thought she was playing 4D chess. She was playing tic-tac-toe with the grandmaster. Get out, I said. What? Get out of my house, both of you. You can't kick us out, Daniel cried. We live here now. You are trespassing on corporate property, I said. You have 5 minutes before my security team arrives to physically remove you. We're not leaving, Michelle shouted. Then you'll be carried out, I said. I turned back to my screens. Patricia, execute the perimeter breach protocol. Already done, ma'am. Patricia's voice boomed from the hidden speakers. Security is in the driveway. Michelle flinched at the disembodied voice. She looked at the screens. A feed showed 2 black SUVs pulling up. 4 large security personnel stepped out. You're insane, Michelle hissed. You're actually insane. Go to a motel, I said without looking at them. And Michelle, don't lose that password. It's the only thing keeping you from being just a thief instead of a wealthy thief. Michelle grabbed Daniel's arm. Come on, she's bluffing. We'll wait her out. They ran. I watched them on the monitor as the security team escorted them off the property. Michelle was still wearing the cashmere blanket. One of the guards ripped it off her shoulders and tossed it onto the grass. Good. The house was quiet again. But it was a hollow silence. Patricia arrived 20 minutes later. She walked into the command center looking impeccable in her charcoal suit. She didn't look like a lawyer. She looked like a shark that had learned to walk. The house is secure, Patricia said. I have a team sweeping for bugs. Michelle is an amateur, but we can't be too careful. She threatened to go to the IRS, I said. A classic move for the desperate, Patricia noted. We're audit-proof, of course, but the crypto that's annoying, is it real? I asked. The transfer happened, Patricia said, pulling up a chart on the main screen. She moved $530,000 to a decentralized exchange. Then she tumbled it. It's sitting in a wallet, but we can't touch it without the key. So, she has leverage for now. But leverage only works if she's the only one with the secrets. Patricia tapped the table. We need to break her narrative. We need to prove this wasn't just a family misunderstanding or a bad business deal. We need to prove premeditation, malice. The notary, I said. Lisa Crawford. Exactly. Patricia smiled. I found her. She's working a night shift at a 24-hour diner in the warehouse district. Apparently, Michelle promised her a $10,000 cut for falsifying the documents. Let me guess, I said. Michelle didn't pay her. Michelle never pays anyone, Patricia said. Crawford is angry, and an angry accomplice is the best kind of witness. Let's go get breakfast, I said. The diner was called Rosie's, and it smelled of burnt grease and regret. It was 2 a.m. Lisa Crawford was sitting in a back booth, nursing a cold coffee. She was a small woman with nervous eyes and ink-stained fingers. She looked up as Patricia and I slid into the booth opposite her. Sorry, we're closed, Lisa mumbled. You're open for us, Patricia said, placing a crisp business card on the table. Lisa looked at the card. Hayes Enterprises, Legal Division. Then she looked at me. Recognition dawned in her eyes. You're her, she whispered. The dead lady. I'm not dead, I said. Just very disappointed. Look, I didn't know, Lisa stammered, her hands shaking. Michelle, she told me you were in a coma. She said she had verbal permission. She showed me texts. She lied, I said. But you knew the seal was fake. You knew I wasn't there. I needed the money, Lisa said, her voice cracking. My kid needs braces. She said she'd give me 10 grand, did she? I asked. Lisa laughed bitterly. She gave me a coupon for a free oil change and blocked my number. Classic Michelle, Patricia murmured. Lisa, I said, leaning in, I am going to offer you a choice. Option A, you go to prison for notary fraud and conspiracy to commit grand larceny. I have the best lawyers in the country. They will bury you. Lisa swallowed hard. And option B, you give me everything, the texts, the emails, the original documents, with the practice signatures. You help me bury her. What do I get? Lisa asked. Immunity from prosecution by my company, I said, and I'll pay for your kid's braces, direct to the orthodontist cash. Lisa didn't hesitate. She reached into her battered backpack and pulled out a tablet. She was texting me the whole time, Lisa said, tapping the screen. Look at this one. She shoved the tablet toward me. I read the text message from Michelle, dated 2 weeks ago. Lisa, don't worry about the old bath. She's practically a vegetable. Once I sell the rental, I'm dumping her in a state home. Just need that stamp, buddy. We're going to be rich. Dumping me in a state home, vegetable, The rage flared again, hot and bright. This wasn't just greed. This was hatred. "Can you export these?" Patricia asked. "Already did," Lisa said. "I kept backups. Figured she might try to screw me." "Smart woman," Patricia said. "We'll take the files now." We walked out of the diner 10 minutes later with a USB drive containing the digital smoking gun. Michelle hadn't just stolen money, she had conspired to destroy me. And now I had the proof to destroy her. 2 days passed. I stayed in the house, sleeping in the guest room because I couldn't bear to be in the master bedroom Michelle had defiled. My security team was parked outside 24/7s. Daniel and Michelle were holed up at the Rainier Inn, a flea motel off the interstate. Michelle had been calling my phone nonstop. I ignored her. I wanted her to marinate in her fear. On the third morning, my encrypted phone rang. It was Michelle, but she wasn't calling my cell. She was calling the direct line to the Hayes Enterprises main switchboard. She had found the number online. I answered on speaker in the command center. "This is Hayes," I said. "I did it." Michelle's voice was shaking but triumphant. "I called the IRS. I reported you. I told them everything. The hidden server room, the offshore accounts, the cash deals." "Is that so?" I asked, leaning back in my chair. "They were very interested," Michelle gloated. "They're opening an investigation. Your assets will be frozen within 48 hours. You can't touch me, Barbara. You can't sue me if your own accounts are locked. You really don't listen, do you?" I said. "I'm listening to the sound of your empire crumbling." Michelle spat. "Give me the house. The big one. Sign it over to Daniel today and I'll retract my statement. I'll tell them I was confused." I looked at Patricia, who was sitting across from me. Patricia was smiling. She held up a finger. "Michelle," I said, "do you know who wrote the Tax Reform Act of 2018? "What? Who cares?" "My tax attorney did," I said. "Her name is Catherine Lynn. She is a senior partner at the firm that handles my estate. She literally wrote the code you are trying to use against me." "You're lying." "And as for the audit," I continued, "Hayes Enterprises is audited voluntarily every 2 years. We are squeaky clean. In fact, the IRS uses our compliance model as a training example for new agents." Silence on the other end. "So," I said, "you called the IRS. You gave them your name. You admitted to knowing about hidden assets. All you did was put yourself on their radar. When they look at me, they'll see a perfect record. When they look at you, what will they see, Michelle? The sudden influx of crypto, the unpaid taxes on your gambling winnings." I didn't give them my name," Michelle stammered. "You called from a cell phone," I said. "They have your name. You just reported yourself for tax fraud." No, I didn't." "It's over, Michelle," I said. "Come to the office, the real office downtown, Columbia Tower, 42nd floor. Bring Daniel. It's time to end this." "I'm not coming," she yelled. "I still have the crypto key. You'll never see that money." "Bring the key," I said. "We'll talk." I hung up. "She's panicking," Patricia said. "She come. Is the trap ready?" I asked. "The Robert clause is drafted," Patricia said, patting her briefcase. "And the crypto, our tech team is working on a workaround," Patricia said. "But it's risky. If she really wipes the key, the money is gone." "She won't wipe it," I said. "She's too greedy. She thinks she can still win." The boardroom of Hayes Enterprises was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Seattle skyline. The table was a slab of black marble. I sat at the head. Patricia sat to my right. Michelle and Daniel sat on the other side. They looked like refugees. Michelle hadn't showered in 3 days. Her eyes were bloodshot and darting around the room. Daniel looked small. He was wearing old jeans and a sweatshirt. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Welcome," I said. "Cut the crap," Michelle snapped. "I want immunity. I want the house and I want $500,000 in cash or the crypto key gets flushed." She held up a small USB drive. "That's the only copy of the key," she said. "I wiped everything else. The money is dead. Put it on the table," I said. "No way." Michelle clutched it to her chest. "Michelle," Patricia said smoothly, "we know about we know about the tumble, and we know that you tried to transfer it to a wallet in the Caymans yesterday." Michelle froze. You were watching." "We are always watching," Patricia said. "And here's the news you missed. The Caymans Exchange flagged the transaction as suspicious because you used a flagged IP address, the motel Wi-Fi." Patricia slid a piece of paper across the table. "The funds are frozen, Michelle. Not by us, by the exchange. You can't access them. We can't access them. But if we provide proof of ownership, i.e. the original source of funds, we can reclaim them." "So, you need me," Michelle smiled. her confidence returning. You need my confession to get the money back. We need your cooperation, I corrected. And for that cooperation, Michelle leaned back, putting her feet up on the marble table. The price just went up. I want $1 million. I looked at Daniel. Do you hear her? I asked. She's selling you out. Daniel, she's bargaining with stolen money. Shut up, old woman, Michelle said. Daniel is with me, aren't you, Beth? Daniel looked at her. Michelle, you said you'd pay back the debts. You said we'd be free. We will be, Michelle said, once she pays us. I'm not paying you, I said. I signaled Patricia. She opened her briefcase. She pulled out 2 documents. Document A, Patricia said, placing a thick stack of papers in front of Michelle. A full confession. You admit to forgery, wire fraud, and elder abuse. You admit to the theft of the Maple Grove proceeds. Document B. Patricia placed a thinner file next to it. Divorce papers. Daniel gasped. Divorced. Michelle laughed. You're dreaming. I'm not signing either of those. Here's the deal, I said. You sign the confession. You sign the divorce papers. You walk out of here. I will not press federal criminal charges. I will treat this as a civil matter. We will sue you for the money. Yes, you will be in debt for the rest of your life, but you will not go to prison. And if I don't, Michelle challenged. If you don't, Patricia said. We hand the USB drive we got from Lisa Crawford to the FBI. We hand over the chat logs where you discussed dumping the vegetable. We hand over the IRS recording. You will go to prison for 20 years minimum. Michelle paled. Crawford talked. Crawford sang, I said. Michelle looked at the confession. She looked at the USB drive in her hand. If I sign, I'm free. Free from prison, I said. But you leave with nothing. No money, no husband, just your freedom. Michelle looked at Daniel. She looked at the money. She thought she had won. I can't, she whispered. I need the money. There is no money for you, Michelle, I said. There never was. Wait, Michelle said, her eyes narrowing. If I divorce him, I lose access to the inheritance. I lose the future claim on the estate. You never had a claim, I said. But if I stay married, Michelle muttered, calculating. If I stay married, even if I go to prison, he gets the money eventually, and I get half when I get out. She looked at me with a terrifying grin. I'm not signing the divorce. I'll take the prison time. I'll be out in 5 years with good behavior, and then I'll be waiting for Daniel to cash in. She thought she had found the loophole. She was willing to go to jail just to keep her claws in my son's future fortune. I see, I said. I nodded to Patricia, read the clause. Patricia pulled out a 3rd document. It was old. The paper was yellowed. It was sealed with the crest of Robert's family firm. This, Patricia said, is the last will and testament of Robert Hayes. What's this got to do with anything? Michelle asked. Everything, I said. Robert knew women like you existed. He was terrified Daniel would find one. Patricia put on her reading glasses. Section 4, Clause C, the trust fund. Trust fund. Michelle perked up. How much? $15 million, Patricia said. Michelle choked. $15 million. Daniel stared at me. Mom, Dad left me $15 million. He did, I said, but he put a lock on it. Patricia read from the document. The principal sum of $15 million shall be held in a blind trust until Daniel Hayes reaches the age of 40. However, Patricia paused for effect. Should Daniel Hayes be married at the time of disbursement, the trust is subject to the character clause. Read it, I commanded. Patricia cleared her throat. If the spouse of the beneficiary is found to be guilty of or confesses to any crime of financial dishonesty, fraud, or theft against the Hayes estate, the entire trust is immediately dissolved. Michelle froze. Dissolved. Donated to charity, Patricia clarified. Every penny. The Seattle Women's Shelter specifically. You're joking, Michelle whispered. If you are found guilty, Patricia said, pointing at Michelle, Daniel gets nothing. The money vanishes. Michelle did the math. If she went to prison, found guilty, the money was gone. If she stayed married and confessed, the money was gone. But, Patricia continued, there is an exception. Clause D. Read Clause D. I said. If the marriage is dissolved prior to the disbursement and the dissolution is due to the aforementioned fraud, the trust bypasses the waiting period and is released immediately to Daniel Hayes solely. Silence. Absolute heavy silence. The trap snapped shut. Michelle looked at the papers. Option 1. Fight it. Go to prison. Be found guilty. The money goes to charity. She gets nothing. Daniel gets nothing. Option 2. Sign the confession and the divorce. She goes free civilly. Daniel gets $15 million immediately. She gets nothing. but she stays out of jail. You set me up, Michelle whispered. Robert set you up, I said, 20 years ago. Michelle looked at Daniel. She looked at him with pure hatred. You knew, she accused him. I didn't, Daniel cried. I swear. Michelle looked at the $15 million figure on the paper. She looked at the confession line. She looked at the divorce line. She realized that the only way to save her own skin was to make her husband rich and leave him. She picked up the pen. Her hand was shaking violently. I signed this and you don't call the FBI. I keep my word, I said. Michelle uncapped the pen. She didn't look at Daniel. She signed the confession. Scratch, scratch, scratch. She signed the divorce papers. She threw the pen down. I'm done, she said. I'm out. One more thing, I said. The crypto key. Michelle reached into her pocket. She threw the USB drive on the table. Take it. It's cursed anyway. She stood up. I'm leaving. Goodbye, Michelle, I said. She walked to the door. She paused, her hand on the handle. She looked back at Daniel. You're rich now, she sneered. Don't forget who made it happen. She walked out. Patricia picked up the phone. Security, escort her out and serve her with the civil suit for damages the moment she steps on the sidewalk. Civil suit? Daniel asked, his voice small. I promised not to send her to prison, I said. I didn't promise not to bankrupt her. We're suing her for $5 million. She'll be paying us back until she's 90. The door closed. It was just me, Patricia, and Daniel. Daniel was staring at the will. He touched Robert's signature. He started to cry. Not the fake panicked tears from before. Real tears. Deep heaving sobs that shook his small frame. He knew, Daniel whispered. Dad knew I would be this stupid. He knew you had a big heart, I said gently. And he knew predators look for big hearts. I'm so sorry, Mom, he said, looking up at me. I didn't know about the fraud. I really didn't. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to show you I could handle things. And Michelle, she made it sound so easy. Shortcuts are always easy. Daniel, I said, that's why they're traps. I stood up and walked over to him. I placed a hand on his shoulder. You have a choice now, I said. You have $15 million. You are a wealthy man. You can go anywhere, do anything. He looked at the papers. I don't want it, he said. What? I don't want the money. Not yet. I haven't earned it. He pushed the will toward Patricia. Keep it in the trust until I'm 40, just like he wanted. I smiled. For the first time in a week, I felt the knot in my chest loosen. Are you sure? I'm sure, he said. But can I borrow the car? The old one. What? I need to go to the landfill, he said, wiping his eyes. I need to find Dad's paintings. You don't have to, I said. I do. No, I said, pulling a remote from my pocket. I pressed a button. The wall behind me, a panel in the boardroom slid open. Inside, stacked carefully against the wall, were the paintings, the rocking chair, the books. I had Patricia's team pick them up before the garbage truck came. I said, they're safe. Daniel ran to the paintings. He hugged the watercolor of the lake house to his chest. He buried his face in it. Thank you, he sobbed. Thank you. 6 months later, the house on Elmwood Drive is quiet again, but it's a good quiet. We repainted the walls. The gray is gone. We chose a warm cream color close to what Robert liked. The modern furniture is gone, replaced by comfortable leather and wood. I was in the craft room, the real craft room, not the server room, finishing a new cushion for the rocking chair. Daniel walked in. He looked different. He was wearing work boots and jeans. He had started taking night classes in business management. He was working as an intern at Hayes Enterprises, starting at the bottom. No special treatment. Hey, Mom, he said, handing me a coffee. Hey, Daniel. I got the report on Michelle, he said. Oh, she's working at a car wash in Nevada. The civil garnishment takes 40% of her paycheck. She's living in a trailer. Justice is a slow grinder, I said, brushing fabric scraps off the chair. But it grinds fine. He sat on a stool. I was thinking, he said, about the trust fund. Yeah, when I do get it, when I'm 40, I want to use it for something. What? To start a foundation, he said, for financial literacy, for elderly people. To teach them how to spot scams, how to spot the Michelles of the world. I looked at him. I saw Robert in his eyes. I saw the strength I had tried so hard to protect, finally blooming on its own. I like that, I said, smiling. Sounds like a hell of a business plan. Will you help me? He asked. I'm just a retired seamstress. I winked. But I know a lady with a few servers who might be interested. We laughed. It was the sound of a home being rebuilt, one honest stitch at a time. I'm Barbara Hayes. I'm 68 years old. And I've learned that the only thing more powerful than money is the truth. And the only thing worth protecting is family, the ones who stay when the money is gone. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes, one word is enough to say, you were here.